should prepare themselves to go where they have never gone before, into the realm of viewing a complete model of creation. From the first moments of divinely orchestrated activity through its current decay, and ultimately to its complete restoration in beautiful symphonic relationship. Our host, Dr. Carl Baugh, has spent more than 30 years developing this creation in symphony model. Over 50 consultants have contributed in their specialized areas of research. Encyclopedia Britannica relates that the biblical concept of creation is unique and is the most distinctively Christian contribution to metaphysical thought. This video series takes you beyond the metaphysical to the practical research in physics, chemistry, and biology. Nature magazine relates that science is deeply indebted to Christianity. Recent research has uncovered many unexpected links between scientific enterprise and biblical theology. Your life will be enriched as you explore Creation in Symphony, the model.
Welcome to Creation in Symphony, the model. I'm Carl Baugh, your host, founder and director of the Creation Evidences Museum in Glen Rose, Texas, and the director and research manager of the world's first hyperbaric biosphere project. That is a project determined to simulate the conditions that produce the optimal genetic expression at the time dinosaurs roamed the earth. The tentative preliminary results have been very encouraging, and I trust that today's journey and expedition through time, and the cosmos, and into eternity will be a very vivid and rewarding trek for you to take with me. Perhaps we can answer some of the questions, the great philosophic questions that you've been asking, that every grandmother and granddad, every grandchild, every citizen of every culture is asked in one form or another throughout the ages. The four great questions of life. They are, who am I? Where did I come from? What's my purpose here? And where am I going? Hopefully you'll find some answers to these questions in today's discussion and dissertation. I hold in my hand an old book. This book has affected our entire generation. It's called Origin of Species and the Descent of Man by Charles Darwin. In this book, some expressions are made which were not novel. In fact, Charles Darwin actually stole some of the concepts from his grandfather Erasmus and never gave credit for having done so. But that is consistent with the concept of naturalism. You see, we trace the roots of naturalism back to Babylonian times when in Enuma Elish, an expression was made that there were warring factors in heaven, and one killed the other. One supernatural deity survived and dissected the body of Tiamat, the prey, and from that body being dissected, took the upper torso, made the heavens, took the lower torso, made the earth, and as a result, we are here to observe that having occurred. That's pagan philosophy, but it's naturalism. And from those decomposing parts of deity, the life form sprang that we observe today and have observed through the fossil record. But that is relatively consistent with some of the thoughts that have been expressed observing the Nile in Egyptian times, some of the thoughts that Anaximander and Empedocles expressed in Grecian history. Lucretius expressed the same basic concept in Roman observation. And throughout the centuries, various individuals and various religious bodies have placed their concepts in form that would be legendary, sometime even written, but it all comes to a concept of a cosmic egg or a consciousness which in time expressed itself in tangible living forms. Now, In this book, The Origin of Species and the Descent of Man, Charles Darwin expressed that natural selection was the answer, meaning that everything that we see, everything that we know and feel, our psychic experiences are all the result of random processes. One of his devotees in this generation that has just passed was philosopher Bertrand Russell. Philosopher Bertrand Russell wrote, "Man's origin, growth, hopes and fears, his loves and beliefs are but the outcome of accidental collocation of atoms. All the labors of the ages, all the devotion, all the inspiration, all the noonday brightness of human genius are destined to extinction in the vast death of the solar system. Only on the firm foundation of unyielding despair can the soul's habitation be safely built." I must confess that if we arrive by the expression of a cosmic egg, with or without some superintending agency, if we arrive by a naturalistic process we call evolution, if we are the product of universal turmoil, then Bertrand Russell was right. There is no hope for the future. Unyielding despair is the foundation on which we must build the realization, hopes, and futuristic plans of all our lives. However, we're going to offer something much better. And I trust that in the discourse today you will find scientific and academic research verifying the biblical model of scientific creation. All the gods of the past, except one, have had an expression in the lore and legends repeated of their exploits that had to do with a sensuous response to their own desires and had to do with a murderous inclination to the individuals involved in their conflicts, thus explaining the conflict of all of nature and the conflicts we experience in life. That is, all of these gods have had these characteristics except one. Is there a God behind all that we see in the universe? I brought to class today some statements by leading thinkers of this generation. British physicist H.S. Lipscomb, a world-class scholar, recently wrote, "Evolution, naturalistic explanation of the life processes, became in a sense a scientific religion. Almost all scientists have accepted it, and many are prepared to bend their observations to fit it. To my mind," he continues, "evolution does not stand up at all. I think, however, that we must go further than this and admit that the only acceptable explanation is creation." Now, class, is he justified in making such a statement? I think so. Two of the world's leading academic scholars, astrophysicist Sir Frederick Hoyle, Ph.D., and Chandra Wickramasinghe, Ph.D., spent more than a decade researching a problem and attempting to find an answer to inquiry. They had at their disposal unlimited funding, unlimited access to the world's scientific libraries, literature, and laboratories. After more than a decade of researching the question, and they posed a problem. Since we as atheists, they said, know that life originated by naturalistic evolutionary processes, what are the mathematical and scientific odds that given any part of the universe and time and opportunity, life would express itself? They began as atheists. They knew that life had expressed itself in their own mind by naturalistic processes. After the decade of research, they finally published their results. And they stated academically, life coming about on planet Earth or anywhere in the universe by naturalistic processes has one chance in 10 to the 40,000th power. Now, one chance in 10 to the 40,000th power? They said, that means it's absolutely impossible. Let me show you how impossible it really is. If we counted all the electrons in the entire universe, and the electron is the smallest unit of measurable material we know anything about. If we counted all the electrons in the universe, that number would be 10 to the 80th power. But most of the universe is space. Most of the atom is space. If we filled the space inside the atom and outside the atom and the space between all atoms and made the entire universe a solid steel ball of electrons and could not cram one more electron into the entire universe, that number of electrons would be 10 to the 130th power. Now, life coming about by naturalistic evolutionary processes has one chance in 10 to the 40,000th power. That shows how scientifically impossible it really is. In fact, these two scholars said, let us illustrate how impossible this is. They said it would be easier for a whirlwind to sweep through a junkyard and assemble a Boeing 747 jet in flight out the other end than it would be for life to have originated on planet Earth or anywhere in the universe by naturalistic processes. In fact, Sir Frederick Hoyle then published, someone has been monkeying with the physics of the universe, with chemistry, and with biology. Now, we'd like to identify that someone spelled with a capital S. Michael Denton, one of the classic research scholars of our generation, has published a book, Evolution Theory in Crisis. In this book, he shows academically and scientifically that in biological nature, expressed in the cell, you have the DNA, which is the information factory and repository. You have the protein synthesis apparatus, which supplies the material for the proteins of the DNA. And the protein synthesis apparatus cannot function without being programmed by the DNA proteins, nor can it function without the RNA providing the energy for its own synthesis, nor can any of these three composites function without the cell membrane in a living system. In other words, you don't simply have the origination of life in a step-by-step series of processes. You must have all the increments of life full-blown, fully developed, fully functional for life to function at all. Ernst Mayr admitted, and he's a world-class evolutionary scholar, that there is nothing in all the universe, to our knowledge, in the inorganic material that in any way compares with the nature of organic living material. Therefore, I think British physicist H.S. Lipson was right. He stated that we must go further and admit that the only acceptable explanation is creation. Dr. D.J. Fujiyama, in Science on Trial, and these are secular quotations I'm giving, has stated that creation and evolution, between them, exhaust the possible explanations for the origins of living things. Organisms either appeared on Earth fully developed or they did not. If they did appear in a fully developed state, he says, they must indeed have been created by some omnipotent intelligence. Thus, we don't have a third alternative. Either we arrive by naturalistic progression, which has been nullified by scientific research, or we arrived by special creation, which is our exploration journey targeted for this occasion. Paul S. Davies in Cosmic Blueprint stated, the impression of design in nature is overwhelming. Astronomer George Greenstein stated, as we survey all the evidence, the thought insistently arises that some supernatural agency, spelled with a capital A, must be involved. Is it possible that suddenly, without intending to, we have stumbled upon scientific proof of the existence of a supreme being? Was it God, he asks, who stepped in and so providentially crafted the cosmos for our benefit? Finally, I'd like to quote George Ellis, co-author with Stephen Hawking of The Large-Scale Structure of Space-Time, a classic landmark dissertation and exploration in quantum mechanics and the construction, large-scale structure of space-time dimension. He stated, the construction of nature points to a purposeful designer and in another treatise stated that the cause outside the space-time dimension is obvious, that the cause of the universe, the space-time dimension, is outside that space-time dimension. Is it possible, and we state in the affirmative, is it possible that the beautiful earth, as originally designed, with the myriad life forms, with the supporting infrastructure designed inside the globe, with a core keeping the electromagnetic field oriented, with radioactive elements inside the earth, giving precise nuclear radiation and thermal energy, with the band of asphalt hydrocarbons moderating and sustaining a constant temperature of that energy so pervasively designed into the internal structure, with the waters, the great Tehum, then transporting that gentle energy through aqueducts and aquifers to the surface of the globe, so that there would be a gentle overflow of water, refreshing and cleansing all of the deposits and refuse of the creation on the surface. Is it possible that the Creator not only designed the infrastructure of the globe and a habitat for living forms, but provided a beautiful firmamental canopy that would receive the shortwave energy from stellar bodies and amplify the mid-spectral light for the benefit of man and other living systems upon the earth? Is it possible that all of these living systems were designed and coordinated and orchestrated for the benefit of one that God would ultimately create on the final sixth day of a literal creation week in His own image, to express His own purpose and design, to be in charge of the creation, to be master of all that God had designed for the earth, and to actually influence the universe itself? Is that possible? Well, let's explore. Let's take a journey. Let's try to answer some questions. Creation in Symphony, the model.